research in preview of NEP. So Professor Mahendra Shirsat sir, presently working as a senior professor in Department of Physics, also director, RUSA Center for Advanced Sensor Technology, head Department of Electronics and Dean Faculty of Science and Technology of our university, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. He has shouldered several administrative responsibility at our university, that is Registrar, Director, Incubation and Linkages, Director, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Director, Academic Staff College, Head Department of Physics, Director, DDUK. He was postdoctoral fellow and visiting scientist at the Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, University of California, Riverside, USA. Then also visiting principal fellow at University of Wollongong, Australia, way back in the year 2006. Then visiting professor in Hayang University, South Korea, way back in the year 2013. And National Taiwan University of Science and Technology, Taiwan, in the year 2016, 2018, and 2022. Also visiting professor under National Scholarship Program of Slovak Republic at Cornelius University, Bratislava, Solavia, Europe. In the year 2003, from March to December 2003. Professor Shirsat sir has an experience of 35 years in teaching, research, and innovation. He is having 12 years of administrative experience. He has 282 research publications to his credit, out of which 202 research publications from SCI, Scopus, Web of Science Index journals, peer-reviewed journals, and 80 from National Peer-Reviewed Journal. His H index is 37 and I-10 index is 121. His work is cited 5,343 times on Google Scholar, and H index is 33, and citation is 4317, that is 4,317 on Scopus. His cumulative impact factor is 515, with highest impact factor of 16.74, 74, Thomas Rotter. He has 9 patents to his credit, 1 granted and 8 published. He has successfully supervised 26 PhD students and 5 postdoctoral scholars. Presently, 2 postdoctoral scholars and 10 PhD scholars are working under him. He has undertaken 26 major research projects and infrastructural projects ongoing and completed at national and international level, with a total grants of 17 crore 19 lakhs from various funding agencies. Professor Shirsat has established Center for Advanced Sensor Technology for the development of sensors with state-of-art facility in the area of material synthesis, characterization of device fabrication. He has played a vital role to establish Deen Dayal Upadhyay Kaushal Kendra, formerly Center for Vocational Education and Training, CVET, at Department of Electronics, and started BVoc, MVoc, and MSc to impart skill-based education in the area of electronics, industrial automation, and automobile technology. He played pivotal role in capacity of IQAC director during the 3rd cycle of NAC accreditation of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University to secure A grade with 3.22 CGPA. He has visited many universities in foreign countries, including United States, Australia, Japan, France, United Kingdom, Slovakia, South Korea, Taiwan, Germany, Hungary, Czech Republic, Australia, Switzerland, Thailand, Hong Kong. So on behalf of this entire group, I welcome our very respected Professor Mahendra Shirsat sir to this afternoon session, and I would now hand over the proceedings to him. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rafe, for a nice introduction. At the outset, let me express my sincere thanks to the director of this center, Professor S.S. Patil, and Assistant Director, Professor Dr. Rafe, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to have interaction with the faculty members of various colleges and university. Dr. Rafe, I need one information. All the faculty members are from different discipline, or are they from?
Yes, from different disciplines, sir. Different discipline and pan-India, sir.
Pan-India. Okay. Yes. And this is course for young faculty member, or is a combination?
No, sir. It is a sensitization, orientation and sensitization of the new education policy. Okay, so in this, professors, associate professors are also as a participant.
Okay. So it's open to all.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, thank you very much for update. So, in this particular, interactive session, I will be sharing my experiences in dissemination of research outcomes. Now, as far as NEP implementation is concerned, because whenever we are talking about new education policy, so because you must be knowing that nowadays 4-year degree programs are being implemented across the country, undergraduate program, I mean to say. And out of those 4 years, the fourth year of this undergraduate program is going to be highly focused on research. So, and then moreover, as far as master's program is concerned, there also research focus is extensive, and therefore we need to understand, we need to in fact prepare a comprehensive plan to make it sure to implement the policies and make it sure that student would be trained accordingly. Because I remember, because I'm in this profession since last almost 35 years, and I have experience of seating in many BOS, RRCs, and PhD vivos of the student. And most of the cases, what I found is students are not well equipped. Students are not well trained, like well trained on the different aspects of research, like literature review, and then how to do literature review, what to do and what not to do as far as literature review is concerned, and then how to ensure novelty in our research, how to ensure societal relevance in our research, and then moreover how to disseminate the research outcome. That is also very very important. So there are different aspects to be planned, and we need to make it sure that all those component of research should be included in the syllabus, regular syllabus, and students should get enough opportunity to get exposure to all those research components. So accordingly, in my university, what we did uh, in PG program, not only now, but like since last 10 years, like this is what we have been doing since last 10 years. We are teaching research methodology at MSc first year level, first semester level. And we don't teach them the conventional research methodology. I mean, like the bookist research methodology. Rather, we teach them what actually needed, like how literature review is to be done, how the hypothesis to be formulated, then how the comprehensive, how to read a research paper. Because many times whenever the student join PhD program, many times student don't know how to read research paper. So we need to train student to the for that as well. So all those aspect, real aspect which are needed whenever student will be doing PhD, those aspects are being taught right in first semester in my university since last 10 years, more than 10 years, I should say. And then second semester onwards, the student would be working on that those research project extensively, very extensively. Like almost 25% credit we have devoted for research component in my for master's curriculum in my university. And as a result of that, what we found is many students are coming up with research publications in very good research journals, particularly Scopus Index, Web of Science Index journals, and most of them are being placed in many overseas universities for PhD. So this is a kind of outcome we have noticed, we have ensured during last 10 years. And when it comes to the implementation of NEP, let me tell you, like we don't have any problem as such, because this is what we have been doing since last 10 years. And this is what it is expected in the NEP as well. Because if you look at NEP is expecting that research methodology should be taught in first semester. And of course, like there is a OJT component of like on-job training component during second semester, and third and fourth semester research project. But we have been doing this since last many many years, so we don't have any problem as such. So out of all those many component, I thought today I should speak on dissemination of research outcome. So whenever we are talking about dissemination of research outcome, this is going to be, in fact, the outline of my today's interaction. So I will be talking about research cycle, method of dissemination of research outcome, key aspect of drafting research manuscript, and then particularly I will be very much focusing on drafting of research manuscript, because what I again observed is there are many students, in spite of their genuine efforts, they are not being able to publish their data in good journals. Many students, I mean, like if you randomly choose 10 research scholars anywhere across the globe, you will find that hardly 20 to 30% research scholars are able to publish their data in Journal of International Repute. Most of them are not doing. Does it mean that they are not genuine people, they are not genuine researchers? No, because what I found is around like around 60% research scholars are really committed, really genuine, but in spite of that, around 25 to 30% researchers are able to publish their data in good research journal. So I thought like there are many issues, and one of the issues is going to be drafting skills, because this is a kind of art. Drafting manuscript is a kind of art, and which can be earned over the time. Like it requires experience. So therefore, I thought like I should whatever experience I have, earned during last many years. I thought I should share that, and therefore today I have decided to speak on this particular topic. So whenever we are talking about the entire research cycle, it starts with literature survey, because the main purpose of our literature survey has been the identification of gap and formulation of topic. Because unless we identify gap, we will not be able to formulate topic. But the question is how, what mindset we are having for literature review. Because if you don't have the if you don't do proper literature review, obviously gap identification is not going to be realistic, and you will not be able to generate the good, I mean, some useful data. Because at the end of the day, because nowadays if you must be well aware that most of the funding agencies, they stop funding conventional research project. The reason for that is they want the research scholars, they want faculty members to come together, use their research credential to resolve one or other issues, societal issues. So unless you have the plan of addressing societal issues, no funding agency is going to provide you any funding. And same thing is true with publication as well, because nowadays many standard research journals, they are going to look into your research article, that whether whatever research outcome you have, what kind of research, I mean, like what kind of societal relevance the research outcome is having, whether whatever the data you have, we are generating, whether that data, whether those research outcomes are can be utilized for addressing one or other issue. So that is going to be always there, and that is going to be possible only when if we are doing proper literature survey. Now what to be done, what not to be done, that I'm going to discuss in due course of time today. And then once you do this, we are next step in the research cycle is going to be designing of your research. So which includes like formulation of your objectives, hypotheses, objectives, and methodology. uh, like it could be, I mean, you can have the different options for that, but it will like you need to have a very comprehensive planning to design your research. Once you do that, then you will be either collecting data, because you may plan for survey of some you can collect the data from different survey also, or you will be planning for this different experimentation in your laboratory, and as a result of that you will be having plenty of data with you, which can be which you need to analyze by using different statistical techniques. And once you have those data with you, then proper analysis with you, then you will be taking time to select one of the dissemination of research outcome option to disseminate your research outcome. And obviously the publication would be one of those. and then obviously at the end you are going to publish your article, or you will be either you will be publishing your article, or you will be making use of those research outcome for resolving one or other societal issues. So this is how the research cycle is all about. Now, as far as the method of dissemination of research outcome is concerned, there could be two options, like oral presentation and written presentation. Oral presentation has some pros and cons. Like the pros are like it is going to be more flexible. Demand of, like, you can change the instructions and depending on the situation. Like for example, I'm making presentation in front of you. Had this been a face-to-face presentation, I will be looking at the faces of the audience, and then I will be taking some feedbacks, and depending on those feedbacks, depending on those reactions, I can change the mode of my presentation as well. So this is very much possible as far as oral presentation is concerned. And moreover, if any error is expressed, it is easy to rectify. Like for example, while speaking, if I commit some mistake, that those mistakes can be easily rectified in next subsequent statements, right? So that can be easily done. As far as cons are concerned, inaccuracy is going to be one of the serious issues of oral presentation, and sometimes there is a possibility of inaccurate information or finding to reach destination. Sometimes, like because you are not going to be very accountable, because since you will be speaking only, you will be less accountable, and it will have less authenticity too. And as a result of that, most of the time, not most of the time, sometimes whatever the information you will be giving, that will have some sort of inaccuracy. So these are some pros and cons of oral presentation. Similarly, like there are pros and cons of written presentation. As well as the pros are concerned, it is very easy. Like whenever you will be having complex matter, those complex matter can be presented very in very simple way by using written presentation. Written presentation is the best way to present like more like complex matter more attractive, in more attractive way, because you can use animation, you can use different figures, different tools, software tools to create some sort of impact. That is very much possible whenever you are talking about written presentation. And there is very less misinterpretation of findings as well, and it's going to be more authentic too. However, the cons are going to be written reports are expensive and time consuming, because whenever we are talking about written report, like you will have to spend some time, spend some money, and obviously it will take some time for making the report. So it is going to be time consuming, and it is going to be time consuming not only for in terms of writer, but in terms of reader as well. There is no direct relation between writer and reader, because whenever I'm choosing oral method of dissemination, I can get connected to my audience straight away. Whereas as far as the written information is concerned, I can go ahead and publish a paper, but I don't know who is going to read that paper. So I mean, and on the other hand, the readers as well, those who are reading my research paper, they don't know who am I and where I'm working. So like I don't have they might be knowing like where I'm working, but there won't be possibility that there won't be, I mean, you won't be able to get them connected one to one basis for each of them. So these are some limitations of written presentation as well. Now, whenever we will be talking about dissemination of research outcome as far as written presentation is concerned, there are different ways. Like it could be poster presentation, it could be presentation of your research article, it could be PhD thesis, it could be in the form of books or patents or research reports. So today we'll be, as I mentioned earlier, I will be focusing more on publication of research manuscript. Okay. Now, as far as publication of why I have chosen this, because since we are working in academic institutions, the publication of research articles are going to be extremely important for us, because the publication will give you opportunity to get some funding from funding agency. It will help us to get the promotion under UGC CAS scheme, and there are many other benefits as well. However, although it is very, very important, but let me tell you, my friend, rejection of research papers are going to be very, very normal. Let me tell you, because if you are submitting your research article in very good journal, right, to begin with in your uh, I mean, in your research career, most likely it may get rejected, because since it journal is very good, they may find some issues in your article. But let me tell you, whenever your research article is going to be rejected right in the beginning, it is going to be wonderful opportunity for you to learn out of that, because rejection will come along with very, very good suggestions. Nowadays, there are many journals, they are rejecting paper without any reason. The reason for that is, without specifying any reason, what I mean to say. The reason for that is, sometimes, there are checkpoints at editorial level as well. Because earlier, the journal used to send the paper for review process without doing any editorial review process. But nowadays, what is happening, in case of many journal of international reputation, they are having editorial board which has got a very speciality in different areas of the subject, and depending on those specialization, based on whatever the research article you have, your research article will be sent to the respective group of people who will be leading, like one of those will be leading. It could be associate editor, or maybe like editor, the main editor with having some speciality, and that editor will have some checkpoints. So editor will be quickly going through it, and he will be looking at what kind of novelty we have in your research, whether it has some societal relevance, or whether this group has any credibility, in sort of credibility. And if your research article could not get the right mark on those checkpoints, obviously your article is going to be rejected right at initial stage, and it is going to be returned back to the author without mentioning. Sometimes there are some research journals, they are going to make a very specific reason, but there are many journals, they are going to return back your article mentioning that your research area doesn't fall in the scope of our journal. So this is very common reason the most of the journals are specifying. However, there are, like, if you are fortunate enough to enter your paper into the review process, obviously at the end of those review process, even if your paper is rejected, you are going to have a wonderful list of suggestions, and those suggestions are going to be very, very important, and very, I mean to say, the it is going to be a very good learning experience for you. And therefore, my friend, we should not get demoralized with rejection of our paper, because rejection is going to be very, very normal. The question is, if you accept that rejection is normal, then we need to understand why the research manuscripts are rejected. So there are many issues. There are two prominent issues. Number one, it doesn't have, your article may not have novelty, or it may have some drafting issues. There are, like, mainly like a quick, whenever the editor is will be doing quick review of your article, he will be looking at the novelty aspect, and if you could not satisfied with your novelty aspect, it is going to, your paper is going to be outrightly rejected. And sometimes, although you have a novelty good statement, but somehow there are many drafting issues, and somehow you could not convince reviewer that your article is really has something in it, and which is going to be good for the technical people in the area of your interest. And therefore, we need to understand, like, what are those specific issues. Now, as I mentioned earlier, most of the research scholars are not able to publish their data in the Journal of International Repute. This is my experience. Like, since last 35 years, as I mentioned earlier, I am in this profession, and what I observed is, as I mentioned earlier, that if I take a review of 10 random theses or 10 random research scholars, I will come to the conclusion that around like 50 to 30%, maybe 5% here and there, but around 25 to 30% students, research scholars are only able to publish their data in Journal of International Repute. So again, like we need to understand, like if this is the reality, we need to understand what are the issues with this. Now, as far as the issues are concerned, it all depends on what kind of approach you have, right? So these I have listed down some issues, and these issues are based on my own experience. Number one, issues in problem identification, inadequate literature review. As I mentioned earlier, if you don't do proper literature review, if the literature review is inadequate, you will not be able to identify the problem correctly. It will You will not be able to formulate your hypothesis properly, and then obviously there won't be any social relevance. And even if, like for example, you have everything on track, like you did a very good very comprehensive literature review, and as a result of that you identified the gaps, you have formulated your hypothesis, and then you have made it sure that there will be social relevance whenever you will be working on it. But whenever you will be designing experiment, if there are certain ambiguities, like for example, like whenever we are doing survey based research, so what kind of questionnaire you are framing, that will provide you that will like the questionnaire is going to be very much important to get you correct data. Because if you are biased while formulating those questionnaire, you are not going to get the correct data, and you will not be able to uh, have the proper conclusion. Similarly, as far as the experiments are concerned, those who are working in science and technology discipline, so whenever we'll be designing experiment, if there is a sort of ambiguity involved in it, obviously that will lead to the substandard data, and you will not be able to publish those data in good journal. Now, in spite of that, like if you have everything on track, but somehow you are not able to, I mean, obviously, like the reason which I have mentioned in the list on 7 number is improper mapping of strength of research scholar with problem. Because if you don't do proper mapping of your strength with the problem, obviously nothing will happen. Because the improper mapping means we need to, whenever you will be doing whenever you will be planning to initiate new work, we need to do our SOC analysis. Like we need to understand what are my strengths. Because let us say, like I'm from physics discipline, and uh, I want to work on solar cell, for example, right? But I don't know, like what the solar cell is all about. I don't have any prerequisite, I don't have any prior knowledge. So if I don't have any prior knowledge about it, and if I want to initiate start research in solar cell, it means that I have not identified my strength. So I need to identify first of all my strength, and then at the same time I need to see what kind of issues there are there with in the society. Because unless we identify those issues, those problems, uh, my suggestion would be the researcher should first of all identify what kind of strength he or she will be having, and what kind of societal issues he or she will be having around around him or her. And then he need to prioritize those. He need to do the proper mapping first, like which issues are is there, and whether you have some sort of credential to address those issues. And if you are having mapping like for more than one, then you need to prioritize those. Like what should be your first priority? It could be based on the need of the hour, or it could be based on the kind of available infrastructure. So it depend on that. If you don't do this, if you don't do this exercise properly, obviously that will lead to the substantial generation of research outcome. So that need to be tackled very carefully. Moreover, even if you have everything on paper, but on paper means you have resolved all those issues. You don't have any problem in one of the issues which I have mentioned from 1 to 6, 1 to 7 serial number, but you don't know how to draft the research paper. You have some presentation issues. You don't have drafting skills, so you will not be able to convince reviewers, because you should be able to draft your paper in such a way that, as I mentioned earlier, the three important aspects need to be need, need to be ensured, like like the novelty, social societal relevance, and your credibility. These three issues need to be you need to make sure that these three components should be there in your manuscript. And somehow, if you don't have if you don't have this if you could not ensure that these components are there in your research manuscript, obviously you will not be able to convince reviewers, and your paper is going to be rejected. And the last point is going to be credential of research scholars and research group, because nowadays whenever your paper goes to your any reviewer is going to do a quick search on Google. What kind of credibility you have, what kind of publication you have earlier. You may not be having any research credential with you, because if you are like very junior research scholars, you started doing research very recently, you may not be having any credibility. But obviously your research advisor, your PhD advisor will be having enough research credential. So the credential of your research advisor is going to be check. So if neither you or your research director, research advisor have appropriate or adequate research credential, your paper is going to be not considered as a top priority paper. So these are some of the issues which I thought, as far as my perception is concerned, my experience is concerned, but there could be many other issues as well. So if at all these are the issues, then we need to make it sure that those issues should be addressed in due course of time. Now, looking into those aspects which I talked about just now, let me tell you, like with the perspective of the research, the reviewer of the research article, like when the research article comes to me, what I am going to see in your research article, right? With that perspective, like I believe that these are some of the key aspect of drafting research manuscript. Like number one, which I mentioned earlier, novelty. Like reviewer is always going to see what kind of novelty this research article is having. Then second, the reviewer is going to see what kind of societal relevance it has. Third, what kind of credibility the this research group is having. And obviously, the your drafting skills are going to be very, very important, and which will be one of the key aspect in either rejection or acceptance of your paper. So these are some of the key aspect which need to be looked into whenever you will be thinking of drafting your research manuscript. Now let us discuss one by one. Novelty. Now the word novelty is very, very common word, but the question is how to ensure novelty. Question is how to ensure novelty. For that purpose, like this is again out of my own experience. Whenever the students are coming to me, I always ask student to do this rigorous exercise, right? So what student need to do? Student need to do a rigorous literature review. Rigorous, I mean, like in terms of quantity as well as quality, because nowadays many students like do referencing of very limited number of papers, and in terms of quantity, I mean, like 10-15 papers they will be looking into, and then they will come up with the idea that okay, this is how the gap identification has been done, and this is the gap, and then I would like to work on this. But looking into only 10-15 papers, it may not be enough to identify the gaps. It may not be enough to understand what is happening elsewhere. So you need to refer a substantial numbers, maybe around 100 papers down during your initial 4 or 5 months of your research, and that will help you to understand what is happening elsewhere. So in terms of quantity, now as far as the quality is concerned, again it will, like, it's not only number of which papers you are referring, because nowadays there is a flooding of flood, like, I mean, there are n number of research journals coming up nowadays. I don't want to name those journals, but like, uh, uh, wherever you go, you will, I mean, most like many a times you get many emails in your email box, and then you will be having invitation of those editor from those journals, and they will be inviting you to submit research paper. And there are many journals which will not do any sort of review, or they will be asking you to send review reports, and along with some charges, and your paper is going to be accepted. So we have a huge number of journals in this category. So if we are looking at those journals for doing literature review, obviously we will not be able to understand the genuine I mean, you will not be able to come across the genuine researcher or genuine research scholars, because those sincere or genuine research scholars will not be looking at these kind of journals to publish their articles. So therefore, the quality aspect need to be understood. Like, we need to understand. Then next step would be, we need to ask our student to identify journal of international repute. तो जर्नल ऑफ इंटरनेशनल रेप्यूट के क्या मायने हैं, कैसे उसको आइडेंटिफाई किया जाए. So we need to tell student what are the parameters. I'm going to tell you, because I don't know the in the audience, there I mean, there might be very senior teachers. They must be well acquainted with what I'm talking about. But those who are youngsters, those who are in the beginning phase of their teaching career, obviously this particular whatever I'm talking, this is going to be very much useful for them. And so we need to understand what are the parameters for considering journal of international repute. So I will be speaking on that as well. But it's not only that. Like, even if you know the parameters, so for example, you know what parameters are there to categorize journal, to rate a journal as a good journal of international repute. So you have identified, let us say, one journal which has got very good Thomson Reuters impact factor, which is Web of Science Index. It has got very good citations. So fine, like you have done one tick mark. Now the question is, whatever journals you have identified, whether how many number of articles are being published related to your focus area, that is also equally important. Simply having a good, simply identifying the good journal is not going to be enough. So we need to make it sure that at least 50 to 60% of paper which are being published in that journal should be from your focus area. Otherwise, the journal is not going to be good, although it has got very good international reputation, but hardly 2 3 papers are coming from your research area. So that journal might not be good platform for you to understand what is happening elsewhere. So next step would be identification of journal in your focus area. So first of all, you need to know what are the parameters for identification of international journal of international repute, and then once you know that, you need to search the journals in which at least 50 to 60% research papers are from your research area. So then once you do that, you are halfway done. So, like, fine, like, you have identified the journals and everything is done. It will definitely help you to ensure the to identify the gaps. Now the question is, if you don't follow the last step, identification of potential research group across the globe, again you will be having problem. Let us say, like, I can tell you the one hypothetical example. For example, like, in the month of January, I started doing literature review. I gone through these first 3 steps, right? And I have gone through those 100 quality journals, journal papers. I did a very comprehensive review of those 100 papers, identify gaps, and I came to know that whatever the topic which I have identified, nobody so far are dealing with that particular topic, right? It means it has got some novelty component, right? So accordingly, I prepare a comprehensive plan of doing addressing those problems. Started working, so it will take maybe like 3 4 months to do some experimentation. I got some data. I spent couple of months for interpretation and analysis of data, and then I drafted the manuscript. So by that time, it will it like for the entire process, it might take around 6 to 7 months, right? Now the question is, if you failed to follow the last step, identification of potential research group across the globe, what will happen? Like when you started doing literature review in the month of January this year, for example, identify the gaps. There might be other groups as well who must have did the same similar kind of experience exercise and identify the gaps and must have started working by the same time, right? And then by the time you have published the data, you have communicated your research outcome to journal, like just prior to that, maybe 1 month prior to that, the other group have published the data, submitted the similar kind of work and published the data. So the work which was novel 6 months back lost the novelty after 6 months, just because you could not keep the track on the potential group working across the globe in your area. And therefore, what we need to do is we need to see like what are the this is going to be very challenging. It's not going to be very easy to see like who are working across the globe. But if you could refer very good journals across at international level, obviously you will get an opportunity to understand, to identify the potential research group, and then you can keep on tracking their research paper, right? And then if you could see that okay, they started working, you can change the direction little bit. Instead of keeping instead of working on the same track, you could have like if you could able to know like they are working on the similar track, you will be able to you could have changed the direction a little bit, and you could have ensured novelty even at the end of 6 months, and you could have published your paper in good journal. So what I mean to say is, even if you were genuine research scholar, you were good in identification of gaps, but since you could not follow the last step, still you need not be every time, but sometimes I mean to say maybe like 1 out of 10 times you may you may have the problem if you don't follow this last step. And therefore, if you are really genuine researcher, you should follow all those steps to make it sure that you are going to have the novelty in your research outcome even at the stage of submission of your research article. So if you could ensure this all these steps, if you could follow these steps very seriously, I'm sure novelty can be ensured and you will be able to publish your data in good journal. Now the question is how to make it, how to ensure societal relevance. Unfortunately, like what essentially our research scholars are doing, they're doing reverse engineering. Like whenever they will be designing problem, identifying problem, formulating how hypothesis, at that time they are least bothered. They never, many of them, not all, there are few research scholars, they will be very much serious about the societal impact of the research outcome in due course of time. But there will be many research scholars, they will be least bothered about it. And then what they will be doing, they will be uh, working on the topic which they have identified. They will be having data with them, interpreting, and then once they will be having research outcome, then they will try to extrapolate that, like how to utilize this data now for addressing any societal issue. If you could do it right in the beginning and make it sure that whatever and then the plan it accordingly. What I mean is plan it accordingly. Definitely, you will be able to ensure societal relevance in your research outcome. And for that purpose, what we need to do is we need to, as I mentioned earlier, we need to first of all identify a sort of introspection we need to do. We need to understand what kind of strength I'm having. Strength could be in terms of prior knowledge, it could be in terms of your understanding, it could be in terms of your infrastructure available with you, like in terms of many things. Like there could be many parameters to understand the strength. So first of all, we need to understand what are the strength and area of expertise of research scholar, the person who will be doing research. And then what he or she should be doing is he should keep on understanding like what kind of societal issues are going to are there around him or her, right? So societal issues relate pertaining to their area of expertise, because we cannot keep our umbrella open every time. Like we need to be very focused, like whatever my expertise is there, so what kind of societal problems are there which are related to my area of expertise. And then once I have the list of strength and list of expertise, I need to do the proper mapping which I have mentioned earlier. And then once I did mapping, then I need to do I need to prioritize those mapping areas, because the reason for that is prioritize prioritizing could be on the basis of, as I mentioned earlier, on the basis of the need of the hour. Need of the hour means emergency, like whether that topic need to be addressed uh, with the priority, or it could be in terms of the available infrastructure, or it could be in terms of anything else. So you need to prioritize that. If you could prioritize that, and if you could start working accordingly, right from the beginning, I'm sure whatever data you will be, because there in this case what you will be having, whenever you will be having research outcome in between, you will be able to correlate that whether this particular kind of research outcome will be able to solve this problem. If not, you can make the fine tuning, you can change the track, you can change the you can have the little bit deviation, and you will be always ensuring that whatever data you will be generating, that data is going to be useful for addressing those problems. So if you could do this kind of activity exercise right from the beginning of your research, obviously societal relevance can be ensured. And the third one is credibility. How to ensure the credibility in my research article. So for that, again, you need to do a sort of introspection. You understand what kind of credibility you have. It could be in terms of prior knowledge, or it could be in terms of prior publications, right? So let us say that, let us say you have some data with you, which can be published in good journal, but you need to understand whether you have some prior publications related to that data. If you have, that could be your strength. If you don't have, then forget about that. Then you need to see like what else you have, so that that could be inculcated in your manuscript in as a credibility. So it could be like the if you don't have that, then you need to look at the publication records of your advisor, or you could see uh, uh, if it is not, let us say, research paper, it could be in terms of some booklets or books, or it could be in terms of patent, or it could be in terms of infrastructure which you have a similar kind of, or if at all you have research paper, then what are the citations, how many citations you got, what are the quality parameters of those journals. So you need to identify all those credentials with you, and you need to make sure that those credentials are being reflected in your manuscript. Now, how to do that? I'm going to give you some examples for that. So this is third aspect which need to be taken care of. And the last aspect is going to be drafting skills of research scholar. Because even if you have everything, if you like everything on track, then again, how effectively you have drafted manuscript, that is going to be very important. How consistent you were in terms of those in terms of material, consistency in all aspect, like whatever claim you made in abstract, those claims, I mean, you will not be making any claims in the abstract, but it would be some glimpses of your claim in the abstract, and then you will be making a proper claim in your introduction. And those whatever claim you have made in introduction, those claims need to be substantiated in your result and discussion, and accordingly in conclusion. So there should be a consistency. So if you don't have that consistency, again, you will be losing track. Then inclusion of appropriate content, because sometimes what happens, like you will be having lot of data with you, and then you will be confused because there are many journals, which are not going to, there will be having some limitations of pages, limitations of figures, limitations of tables and all that. And then if you are having excess amount of data with you, then it is going to be very, very crucial for you what to be included and what to be omitted, right? And that is also going to be very, very crucial in terms of creating impact of your research article. And then obviously writing and composition issues, and obviously the style. So these are some of the drafting skills of issues which research scholar need to be very careful about it, so that they will be able to create good impact of their research article whenever reviewer is going to um, review the paper. Now, what are the common content errors? I will be giving many examples of that. Misleading title. Sometimes what happens, many a times you will get the comment from reviewer that your title is misleading. Because those who are senior research, senior professor in this audience, they might be having this experience that your paper will not be rejected, but the paper would be sent back to the author from editor, and one of the shortcomings would be the title doesn't match to the content of the paper, the misleading title. Inaccurate abstract, because that is also going to be very, very important whenever we are talking about abstract. We need to be very, very sure that you will be making a statement based on what kind of objectives you were having, what kind of methodology you adopted, and what kind of research outcome you had. So very comprehensively you have to mention that in your abstract. Otherwise, if something is missing, obviously it's going to be very, very challenging. Incomplete introduction, because as I mentioned earlier, uh, three aspects which I have mentioned earlier, those three aspects are what kind of novelty you have, what kind of societal relevance you have, and what kind of the credibility you have. Those three aspects need to be reflected in your introduction section very carefully. Then careless methods, because sometimes if you are having earlier publications, many a times student get tempted to use earlier methods in new publications. So that is going to be one of the content error most of the student are having problem with this. Then omitted results, as I mentioned earlier, if you are having many extensive data with you, then you will be confused what to be omitted and what to be included because of limitations of the journals, page limitations and figure limitations of the journal. Illogical discussion, these are very common content error, because whenever we are talking about discussion, result and discussion, whatever figures you will be referring, whatever data you will be referring, you need to make sure that you need to do the conclusive statement in your result and discussion, that the claim which you have made in the introduction section, those claims are in line with the data which you have received. Okay, so that kind of discussion need to be done, and in the result and discussion. If it is not, then that again is going to be very, very problematic. And then last content error could be irrelevant conclusions, because as I mentioned earlier, the claims which you have made, the claims which you have substantiated in your result and discussion, those claims need to be again restated in your conclusion part, and then you need to show some kind of future directions in your conclusion. If you could not do that, obviously it will be referred as a irrelevant conclusion. So these are some of the common content errors which I thought I should put in front of you, and these all are out of my own experience. So let us assume that you've done a very extensive research or literature survey, and over the time, maybe for 5 6 months, and now you did uh, uh, like literature review, and now you are ready to go for drafting your research paper. So what we need to do is, as I mentioned earlier, all after completion of all your data analysis, experimentation, all again you need to do a why analysis. Again you need to do why analysis to understand where do you stand today. Like the whatever novelty you had earlier, whether you had again the similar novelty even today. So that need to be ensured for doing by doing literature, quick literature review. And that is why I always ask my student to keep on doing literature survey throughout your research journey, because it's not only like one short exercise. Like to begin with, I did a literature review and then that's all. No, because this literature review need to be uh, we need to keep on doing. We need to like advise our research scholar to keep on doing literature survey periodically, so that you will be able to understand what is happening elsewhere, and what kind of whatever the gaps you identify earlier, the gaps are still exist. If no, if doesn't, we need to do a slight deviation in our research directions, and accordingly we can ensure the novelty. And therefore this kaizen concept, many of you might be aware of this kaizen concept. What I believe is this kaizen concept is basically Japanese business philosophy of continuous improvement of working practices and personal efficiency. In fact, this kaizen concept is started from Japan, and nowadays it is being adopted, as far as the India is concerned. It has been adopted in most of the corporate sector, because there because you when it goes to the corporate sector, your boss is going to tell you that okay, fine, like you are doing this job since last maybe couple of years, 2 years, 3 years down the line. Now I want like for example, if you are working on any machine and you were producing, let us say, 100 devices, your boss is going to tell you, fine, now from tomorrow onwards, I want 110 devices in one day, in like in 24 hours duration. Right? Earlier you used to produce, let us say, 100 devices. He will be asking you to have the enhanced increase of 10 devices, or devices could be the same, but he will be asking you to enhance the quality parameters. Sometimes like you will be doing some compromise on some one or other issues. He will be asking you not to do compromise now, address those issues, and if you could not do it, you are going to be away from my industry. So this kind of improvement, continuous improvement, is always expected in industry. Similarly, like similar kind of aspect, approach need to be adopted in academics as well, and particularly student or teachers who are in research. If you could adopt this Japanese kaizen philosophy, obviously this can be ensured only when if you are doing continuous literature review. Otherwise you will not be able to do that. And this is a kind of a foundation for making sure that the novelty is going to be there always in my research investigation. Now, as far as the quality of journal is concerned, I don't know whether I should spend some time on this slide, because if there are more senior faculty members, they might be well aware of this. But if you are having a good number of youngsters, they may not be knowing this. So let me spend some time on these slides. Like whenever we are talking about impact factor, because nowadays everybody is talking about impact factor. And like as far as the cash promotion, UGC cash promotions are concerned, you are going to have augmentation of your score if you are having Thomson Reuters impact factor, right? So first of all, we need to understand why impact factor is going to be important, to understand that this is going to be one important parameter for rating a good journal, right? So this is the formula. Like for example, if you are um, uh, uh, calculating impact factor of 2024, the formula is going to A by B. What the denominator is? Denominator is the total number of citable items published by that journal in last two preceding years. Let us say the journal have published 200 articles during last two preceding years. So the numerator is going to be, out of those 200 articles, how many were cited in 2024 by index journal. So if 200 out of 200 have been cited, the impact factor is going to be 1. If like all those 200 journals have been cited twice, so in numerator it would be like 400 and denominator would be 200. So impact factor would be 2. So more the citation of those articles, more will be the impact factor. And citation, your paper is going to be cited only when if it has got some novelty. Because if your paper is on routine work and doesn't have any novelty, nobody is going to cite your paper, right? So more the citations means like it has got some content, and therefore we should consider a journal having good impact factor, so that you will be able to get the good cross section of the research scholars and their research outcome for identification of gap. Now question is which impact factor again, right? So earlier this impact factor used to be administered by Institute of Scientific Information, but nowadays it is being monitored Thomson Reuters impact factor in particular, because Thomson Reuters impact factor is a kind of a very standardized mechanism to deal with the impact factor at international level, which is being now administered by Clarivate Analytics. Now, I don't know whether I should talk about this, but maybe quickly, like H index, because nowadays, whenever you will be submitting research article, not research article, but the research project to the funding agency, reviewer are going to see quickly see like what kind of H index you have. Because the reason for that is it will help the research reviewer to understand your productivity and impact of your published work. Because even if your number of publications are more, if your H index is less, it means that most of your journals doesn't have good citations. So if H index, let us say for example, I have 100 papers and I have 20 H index, so it means that out of those 100, only 20 papers got 20 citations. So this is all about H index. Now, regarding data of academic databases, I need to mention, because many times when I go to many colleges, and not only colleges but even in universities, many there are two different scenario. I came across many research professors and research scholars from the Faculty of Humanities and Commerce and Management, and they are having a wonderful research publication record of very good journals across the globe. But there are many research scholars from the humanities and commerce and management. They believe that they don't have a Scopus Index journals in their subject. They don't have Web of Science Index journals in their subject. So for them, I thought I should give you the glimpse of that. You can see here in the first column itself, this is Arts and Humanity Citation Index. The discipline is Arts and Humanity, and it is being dealt by the Web of Science. So there are very large number of journals in Arts and Humanities Studies Index which are of Web of Science index journals. Then similarly, you can see this one, Social Science Studies Index. This is also being controlled by Web of Science. Scopus is multidisciplinary. Here, like you have social science journals from science, engineering, social science, everything. Similarly, Indian Studies Index is also there. So these are some of the databases in which the quality journals are going to be there. And I would request all, if you are young research scholar, those who are young research scholar, young faculty members here, I would request them not to publish your journals, I mean, research outcome in substandard journals. Unfortunately, I should not make a statement, but unfortunately, nowadays, there are many substandard journals which have been included in UGC list. This is most unfortunate, and therefore, I will not recommend you to publish your data in UGC index journal. Rather, I would recommend you to publish your data in this arts and humanity, this science index, like Web of Science and Scopus Science Index. What the Scopus is? Scopus is basically elsewhere abstract citation database launched long back in 2004. They covers nearly, like, these titles are more now because these are the numbers which have collected few months back. But they deal with many articles, and they have three different kinds of sources: book series, journals, and trade journals. And similarly, Web of Science, earlier known as Web of Knowledge, and uh, if you compare Web of Science with Scopus, Web of Science has a little bit stringent screening mechanism, because Scopus will consider many conference proceeding publication as well, whereas Web of Science will not consider conference proceeding publication whenever they will be indexing, making index of those articles. Google Scholar, ResearchGate is another social networking site for scientists and researchers to share their papers, ask questions, and find the collaborations. Basically, this is a kind of platform which is being used for having some sort of interaction. And therefore, even if you have a RG score, because here, because nowadays people are rating researcher on the basis of RG score. But let me tell you, if you are active, if you are passive, what I mean, if you are passive, your RG score is not going to be good, because on ResearchGate, if you are passive, your RG score is going to be very, very less. So we should not judge anybody on the basis of RG score. Or RG score should not be used to judge the academic credential of any research scholar. So I thought like you should know it. And then Google Scholar is again like another database. It is freely accessible web search engine, released in November 2004. And Google Scholar will have a lot of sources, many even like as compared to the as compared to Web of Science and Scopus, Google Scholar collect the research publications from all sort of journals. So if you look at, if you do the sort of comparison, this is a kind of comparison of my data only, because I should not show the data of anybody else. This is my data only. You can see the numbers. On Google Scholar, I am having 283 publications with more than 5,000 citation. HND is 38 and I10 is 125. However, on Scopus, I have 2004 publications and 4,373 citations, and H-index is 33. You can see the comparison. And Web of Science is more stringent. You can see on Web of Science, I'm having 181. Not, you can see 283, 04, and 183. And you can see the difference in citation as well. On Google Scholar, it is more than 5,000. On Scopus, it is more than 4,000. And here it is like close to the 4,000, right? And even in terms of H-index, you can see 38, 33, and 31. So it means that Web of Science is going to be a little bit more standardized platform on which on the basis of that you can rate the research scholar. So Scopus and Web of Science are going to be considered as a more standardized databases to rate the standard of reputation and productivity of any research scholar. I was talking about the journal metrics. Apart from yearly impact factor, there are four more journal metrics or parameters, I would say. Number one, because impact factor, yearly impact factor will take care of 2-year citations, preceding 2 years citations, whereas site score will measure citation of last 3 years. So it means it is like a broader view to understand the quality of the journal. Then another could be a 5-year impact factor. So 1-year impact factor, 2-year citations, site score will take care of 3-year citation, and 5-year impact factor will take care of all 5-year citations. So these three parameters will be are based on basically the citations. Now, HR is another quality parameters which is called as a Samago journal rank. It is a measure of scientific influence of scholarly journal that accounts for both number of citations received by the journal and the importance or prestige of the journal where such citations are coming from. What does it mean? It means that it's not only quantity but quality aspect is also going to be considered. It's not only number of citations, but where the citations are coming from, it is going to be considered while designing while considering HR parameter. And the fifth parameter is going to be SNP, which is source normalized impact for paper. Because sometimes in a given journal, what happens? There are a few journals in which some articles are going to have a very good citations, but some articles may have very less citations, right? So this SNP is going to normalize the impact factor, and therefore, if you could see the SNP factor, you will be able to understand. Uh, if you compare, in fact, impact factor with SNP, you will be able to understand uh, the kind of quality of that journal. So whenever you will be asking your student to do the literature review, we should advise our student to see these parameters and identify good journal of reputation and do the literature review, so that the identification of gap would be more realistic. Now, as far as journal finder, because whenever we are talking about the publications, identification of journal is going to be again crucial, because uh, you need to identify a proper platform to publish your data. Sometimes what happens, whenever you will be submitting paper, your paper may get rejected, written back. I would not say rejected. Paper may get written back within like couple of hours only. The reason for that is your paper may not fall into the scope of that journal, right? And therefore, there are certain journal finder websites which can be utilized to see the proper journals, right? And the first, this is journal finder websites, and these are some index journal. You can see the clarivate.com means you are going to get a very good standard journal. And there are some, this is a website for getting you some hint or some kind of clue, some kind of tips for writing effective articles as well. And I am going to show you the screenshot of those journals, particularly from social science and humanity discipline. You can see these are all Scopus and Web of Science index journals, not with a great impact factor, but some sort of impact factor. This Indian Economy of Social History Review. These are all social science, Scopus and Web of Science index journal. Annual Review of Law and Science, this is the Journal of Finance, Humanities and Social Science Reviews. Then this is Contemporary Education Dialogue. This is again same. And if you look at the website, you will see all those 5 parameters which I talked about to understand the quality of journal. This is Political Science Research and Method. This is Commonwealth Comparative Politics. There are many, but I'm giving you a glimpse of some of those quality journals. This is Public Administration Review, the Journal of Contemporary Drama in English, this is Research in Drama Education. And then, as far as the science discipline is concerned, there are plenty of journals. Like these are some of those sensors and activators, API, nanolators. ACS has a series of journals. Nanolate is one of those. IOP has series of journals. This is one of those. There are many. ACS, as I mentioned earlier, ACS, American Chemical Society, then IEEE. There are many journals which has got, the quality, which are considered to be very quality journals. Now, as far as coming back to the drafting of research manuscript, before you start drafting, you need to uh, think about on ethical issues. You need to have the disclosure of conflict of interest, because whatever, uh, if you are working in group, you need to disclose your conflict of interest. Like particularly if you are working on some, let us say like working on the ISRO project or some DRDO project. So there would be some conditions. So those conflict of interest should be resolved right in the beginning. Whatever funding agencies you have, you need to think about acknowledging that. And I mean, if you are doing biological research, then you need to think about the clinical trials and all those approvals from your institutional board, and all those ethical issues need to be addressed before you start drafting your manuscript. Because at the end of the during submission, uh, those issues will be raise, and you will have to address those issues. Regarding style and language, as far as the general selection, and then the selection of option is concerned, some authors write their papers with the specific journal in mind. Like, for example, I have data with me. I will be keeping some journal in my mind, and I will be drafting paper. But that may create problem in due course of time. Instead of that, what we should do is we should write a general. Without keeping any journal in mind, you should draft the entire. You could complete the entire draft of your paper without deleting, without omitting any data, whatever you have, and then look at the journals and see the what kind of requirement they have, and accordingly you should modify it, because it will help you to understand which data is to be dropped and which data can be selected the for the publications. Regarding article submission, select your journal carefully, read aims and scope carefully, because as I mentioned earlier, sometimes if you don't do this exercise seriously, you may get frustrated by getting your paper rejected for more than one time. And follow guidelines carefully, very carefully. And nowadays, many publishers now offer complete electronic submission. It is going to be good because uh, everything is going to be online. So you need to prepare for that. They will be asking you some list of reviewers. Whenever you will be getting opportunity to think about the list of reviewer, don't choose any close collaborator or your friend, because unfortunately, even if you are choosing those as a reviewer, and even if they will be sending a positive comment, but every journals are going to follow blind reviewing as well, and then that will be the problem for you if your friend is sending positive remark and then comment, and then the blind reviewer will be rejecting your paper sometimes. That so you should be very impartial on that particular line. Now I'm going to take a break, and I will, because now this is now from these slides onwards, I will be speaking very specifically on how to write titles, how to write abstract, introduction, result, table discussion, and all those very specific manuscript editing concept we are going to discuss hereafter. But before that, I'm going to take a break for a while. And if you are having any questions before taking break, I will be very happy to address those questions. Any questions? Hello, coordinator. Hello. Hello. So no question. Who is coordinating this session? Nobody's coordinating. Is there anybody from office bearer? Okay. Let us take a break for 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and then I will come back.
काय झालं पण यांनी
हेलो हेलो हेलो। अरे यार कोई तो बात करो।
The number you are calling is currently switched off.
अरे माझा आवाज येतो का तुम्हाला हे तर सांगा. हेलो. हाँ
असं
डॉक्टर
येतो आवाज.
राफी. ये सेशन में.
हाँ सर चालू करा. हॅलो सर, स्टार्ट युअर सेशन.
ओके ओके. अरे कम से कम कोई तो बात करो यार. डॉक्टर क्या तुपारे. सो आर यू एबल टू हियर. हेलो.
हाँ म्यूट है सर.
हाँ
म्यूट करके रखे है ना वो.
सबको म्यूट करके रखे. ओ.
हाँ,
तो ये तो फिर स्केलेटन के सामने बात करनी पड़ रही मुझे.
चैट बॉक्स में लिख रहे हैं हम इसलिए.
Yes, I could see that, but the problem is if nobody is responding, it would be very. I mean, I'm not
Luckily,
comfortable at all.
I
ठीक है.
mute and
Okay, I will
talk with
start.
you, sir.
I will start. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Just wait for a couple of minutes. I will start.
हॅलो. So I have unrestricted the unmute system for the participant. Participant आप लोग unmute कर सकते हो ना? Participants can unmute and ask questions or can have an interaction with our resource person.
Dr. Rafe, because it is not at all. I mean, I am not at all compatible with this kind of interaction, because when I stop, I mean, like, it was given adequate time for participant to speak. Nobody
Yes.
was speaking, so I don't know whether I should continue or stop here.
सर थोड़ा सा वो माइक इसलिए बंद रखते हैं सर कि बहुत डिस्टर्बेंस हो जाता है इसके उससे।
प्रॉब्लम कैसे है ना, आपका सही है, बट कोई इंटरेक्शन नहीं रहा तो भी मतलब
हाँ यू आर राइट सर।
मतलब नोबडी वाज, मुझे तो पता ही नहीं ना, वो सबको म्यूट किया
हाँ,
गया, तो मुझे लग रहा है कि ये सब सो रहे हैं या जाग रहे हैं।
नहीं
No, sir.
म्यूट
Actually, sir, sorry to interrupt, Dr. Rupesh Rabba. Actually,
हाँ।
we were unable to speak because the host has not given the permission to speak.
That I understood
They
now,
have put-
but
they have posted the message.
yeah, I saw your message in the message boxes, but but unfortunately, because it is very rather embarrassing to just speak on one
No,
one way,
actually, the
because
permission was not given from the host. Otherwise, we were there, sir. We were totally attentive
Mm,
in the session.
okay, let me continue now. So I will
Yes, sir,
finish,
yes.
and then at the end we can have interaction, because if you don't have interaction or any single feedback, like we are all teachers, right?
Yes, sir.
Students,
Yes, sir.
if students are keeping mum, so no teacher will be encouraged to speak later, right?
There are
So
total 36 messages, sir. They have replied to your.
really, because
Yeah.
I saw one or two messages, not all the messages, but anyway, thank you very much for your response. Now let me continue now.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So is my screen visible?
Yes sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. So again, welcome back. Unfortunately, as I was not able to get any feedback, I could not dare to speak. So we lost almost almost half an hour. Anyway, so this is going to be a manuscript template. Okay. So I will be speaking very specifically now what should be, like, what should be title, how author appellations should be drafted, and all that aspect, right? So let us start with title of the manuscript. Now, whenever we are talking about the title of the manuscript, it needs to be like attention grabbing. So whenever we are talking about attention grabbing, I should quote you some examples, right? So, but before quoting some examples, I will give you a kind of uh, some kind of guidelines to write a title of any manuscript. It could be applicable even for research project too. So try to keep it as short as you can. Like, it should be around. There is no thumb rule as such, but there is. It should be around 150 characters long, and you should try to avoid the words like case study of, effect of, comparison of, because we are very much used to of writing this kind of words: case study of, effect of, comparison of. It should not be there. Don't use questions, and there should not be complete sentence in the title. Phrase would be better, and we should not use any abbreviation as such. I'm going to give you one hypothetical example how to write a very short title, and what should be mechanism for that. So this is a hypothetical example. Like, what we need to do is we need to answer some basic questions about our own paper. Okay. Now I'm raising some hypothetical questions and responding to those hypothetical questions. And you see, like, how, based on those hypothetical answer to those hypothetical questions, how the short title is going to be evolved. let's say the first question is what my paper is all about. We need to ask this question, right? So these are all, as I mentioned, hypothetical questions. So let's like my paper studies how program volume outcome affects outcome of heart transplant patient on waiting list. So this is the response, right? Next, what methods and techniques did I use to perform my study? So I employed case study. So this is a very common. These are very common questions. What or who was the subject of my study? I studied 100 heart transplant patient waiting list having age group of 40 to 60. Next question is what were the results or what are my results? Positive correlation between waiting list volume and poor outcome of heart transplant procedure. Okay, these are some of the questions. Now, once you formulate the questions, once you have the response to those questions, next step is going to be identify the list of keywords. Okay, so whatever responses you have, identify list of keywords. So you can see the questions are in red color, and the black colors are respond, and the highlighted are keywords like program volume, outcome, heart transplant patient, waiting list, case study of 100 transplant patient, age group of 40 to 60, positive correlation. These are some of the keywords and phrases which I have identified. So second step is once you have responses to your own questions, second step is going to be identification of keywords and phrases which I have done. Next step is going to be write one long statement based on these keywords and phrases. So whatever keywords and phrases I have utilized, I have written one long statement based on these keywords and phrases. Like the study used a case study of 100 heart transplant patient in age group of 40 to 60 years to assess how the waiting list value affects the outcome of heart transplantation in patient. Results indicates a positive correlation between increased volume and negative prognosis after the transplant procedure. So it's a kind of very long statement which I have drafted based on those keywords and phrases which were identified based on the responses of the question I raised. Now, next step is to create a working title based on that. Okay, so in order to create working title, what I need to do is I need to delete unnecessary and redundant words and keep all of most important information. So like whatever unnecessary and redundant words are there, that need to be deleted, and some most important information need to be kept. And shift some words around and refresh to make it sound more natural. So what you need to do is you have to rephrase some of the words so that it is going to be more impactful. So based on that, I have redrafted the long paragraph, long statement which I made on earlier slide. This is a case study of 100 heart transplant patient in age group of 40 to 60 years, assessing the impact of waiting list volume on outcome of heart transplantation and showing a positive correlation between increased waiting list volume and negative prognosis. Now, if you look at this is still like, okay, this is smaller than this because you can see this is very long statement. This is smaller statement but still have 44 words. And on an average, let me tell you, general title should have around 16 words as far as the words are concerned. I told you about the character. It should be around 150 character, but whenever we are talking about character words, it should be around 15 to 16 words. It has got 44 words. This is to again long statement. Now the next step is going to be delete extra words and phrases and put keywords at the beginning and at the end. So what I did is now the extra words and phrases need to be dropped. Like for example, case study of 100 age group of 40 to 60, showing positive correlation between. These are some of the phrases and keywords need to be dropped, and I will be putting some keywords in the beginning. Like for example, assessing the impact of waiting list volume on outcome of prognosis in heart transplantation patient. You can see like this is a kind of very impactful title having only 15 words. So earlier, like I started with what I did is I started with raising some questions. I responded to those questions, identify some keywords and phrases, and then drafted one long statement. And then next step it was like I deleted some redundant and unnecessary words, and then some extra words I have deleted and I have rephrased it. And at the end, I could see a wonderful title, very impactful, having 15 words only. Right. So this kind of exercise need to be done whenever you will be drafting title. Now I can give you more examples. You can see this. Like there are two different examples. Like number one, the blue color, light blue color is the correct way to write a title, and the red color is not is a wrong way to write the title. You can see. Let me read long title first. Investigation on modification of reduced graphene oxide by various free base and metal substituted porphyrin and its use in chemiresistive modality for detection of carbon monoxide. I have drafted this for science discipline teachers. Now you can see this is still very long statement, right? This long statement can be minimized like this, because as I mentioned earlier, investigation, case study of, characterization of should be draft, should not be there in a title. And therefore, the fine-tuned title could be a camera-resistive sensor based on porphyrin modified reduced graphene oxide for detection of carbon monoxide. Very fine-tuned title. Similarly, another the example, you can see that, but first of all, let me read the wrong and long title. Determining the mechanism of selection procedure of CEO as per prevailing governmental regulation and political influence in actual appointment of CEO and other authorities of the institution and its impact on overall functioning of institution. What we are trying to do is here we are trying to explain everything, we are trying to mention everything in the title, which is not expected at all. The same title can be fine-tuned like this. Understanding the role of CEO for effective functioning of institution. You can see here everything is there, because you see, as far as title is concerned, you should not try to mention everything in the title, right? However, you can do it in you can make it mention of the same thing in the abstract, but title should be very attention grabbing. So I have given you a couple of example of attention grabbing title. Now let us move ahead. Now, whenever we are talking about the title page of manuscript to be submitted, title page include list of authors, author appellations, corresponding author, running title, abstract, keywords, and list of abbreviation. This is what the list of the title page will look like. You can see this is one of my paper which were published in 2022, and you can see here all those aspects which I have mentioned here are there here. You can see the because this is all, this particular part is from journal, but whenever we are writing papers, it has got title, authors, author affiliation, abstract, keywords, and everything is there on title page. And you can see this is what I have marked, like title, authors, affiliation, everything. And then you have corresponding authors as well, that should be there on the title page. Now, whenever we are talking about author listing, only include those authors who have made intellectual contribution to the research, because nowadays it is a kind of practice, very bad practice, to include the name of authors which doesn't have any relevance, जिनका कोई कोई कंट्रीब्यूशन नहीं है, ऐसे ऑथर्स के भी नाम हम इंक्लूड करते हैं. वी शुड नॉट डू दैट, बिकॉज what we should do is those who have contributed significantly intellectually, or either in the form of doing experiment or interpreting data, in that case only we should include the name of that author. Otherwise we should not do that. And moreover, we should make it sure that whenever somebody is asking anything about the paper, he should be able to publicly defend the data and conclusion which is there in your paper. If you don't know anything about it and still you are including them, you are creating a very wrong message, and it is going to be you are defaming yourself, in fact, whenever you will be doing like this. Moreover, like regarding orders of the name, most of the time the first author should be the person who has worked in the lab, usually student. and the PhD advisor should be corresponding or last author. So this is how the order should be followed. But I have seen there are many PhD advisor, they are putting their name in front. पहला नाम उनका रखते हैं. That is very wrong practice. Corresponding and guide should be, PhD advisor should be at the end, and you can mention that that fellow is corresponding author, or even student can also be corresponding author simultaneously, collectively. Your student and the teacher, I mean, like the PhD advisor can both be a corresponding author. But usually the first author is going to be student who work in the lab, who interpreted the data, who has collected the data, and the PhD advisor would be in last in the list, and he can be a corresponding author. This is, if you don't do this, it is going to be highly unethical. When it comes to the abstract, as I mentioned earlier, abstract should have three important aspects. One is what you have done, how you have done, and what you have achieved. It means what were your objectives, what kind of methodology you have adopted, and what you have achieved. So that should be reflected very comprehensively in very limited words. Most of the time, most of the journals will allow you to write abstract within 150 to 300 words. It varies from journal to journal, but on an average, it's going to be from 150 to 300 words. It's not beyond that. So you should have a practice of writing effectively a short summary of your research, what you have done in your research. Okay, so if you could do this, then only you will be able to impress the viewer. These are some of the common mistakes which people do. Like, this is the reason you see, like there are some background noise, people are, the participants are speaking in between, and this is the reason why the center has muted you all. Unfortunately, whenever we are being given all sort of freedom, we are never control those freedom, and that is why restrictions are being imposed. This is most unfortunate. Anyway, so these are some of the common mistakes. Too much background or methods information, कि यहाँ पर जब abstract की बात हम करते हैं, बहुत ज्यादा बैकग्राउंड एंड मेथड्स, जो मेथोडोलॉजी हमने यूज की, वो मेंशन नहीं करना चाहिए. There should not be any figures. Of course, graphical abstract is new trend. Most of the journals nowadays asking for graphical abstract, but that is altogether independent. The word abstract is different, and there should not be any reference of literature in the abstract. There should not be any abbreviations in the abstract. These rules should be followed. Now, you can see this is abstract of one of my paper published earlier. As I mentioned earlier, there should be 3 paragraphs. One first paragraph, I'm not going to read now, but if possible, you can read. In first paragraph, we try to explain what kind of work we have done, what were our objectives. In second paragraph, like somehow we mention the kind of methodology we have used, and the last paragraph explain the what kind of results we got. So these are the very specific responses that the researcher should come up with as far as the abstract writing is concerned. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is a recent trend now. Every journal they are asking for graphical abstract. These are some of the examples of graphical abstract, in which whenever we are talking of graphical abstract, it means graphically you will be explaining what you have done in your research. Okay, this is one example. This is another example of graphical abstract, and so on. Now, next comes introduction. So, as I already told you, because we spent enough time on this aspect, in fact, that introduction should consisting of 3 important aspects, which I have already mentioned: the novelty, social relevance, and credibility. Because whenever your paper will be going to a reviewer, the reviewer always going to see these 3 components in your introduction. And if you are missing that, obviously your paper is going to be rejected straight away in the first screening itself. Okay. So there are many more things which I have mentioned here, like problem being investigated, background that explain the problem, reason for conducting research. So this is what I just wanted to tell you. that whenever you're talking about the novelty, of course, you will have to mention what you have investigated, what is the background, what the gaps were, and how you identify the gaps, and how will you be bridging the gaps. All those aspects need to be mentioned very specifically and regarding the novelty. Similarly, the credibility aspect and societal relevance aspect as well. So this is what I have mentioned, that these three aspects should be reflected very categorically in your investigation. You can see this. This is a kind of social relevance paragraph. Now, this is from my own paper. This paper was based on the detection of some VEDEX, like this is a very carcinogenic volatile organic compounds which are there from the vehicle exhaust. And here we have mentioned societal impact, like if the human beings are exposed with these kind of volatile organic compounds, what are going to the effect on the human body. So this is societal aspect that we have mentioned. As far as these two paragraphs are concerned, we try to claim the novelty, right? We try to explain what we have done, how this is better than earlier one. Okay, what were the gaps? So we try to explain in these two paragraphs. Similarly, as far as credibility is concerned, in these two paragraphs, we try to mention what kind of prior knowledge we have, what kind of prior publication we were having. So, like, it's not only this, you have to mention many more things, but these three aspects need to be reflected very, very specifically in your introduction. Then comes to the experimental details, like whatever the experimental details you have regarding material, regarding methods which you have used, regarding other important, like if you are from science background, then what kind of chemicals you have used, what kind of methodology you have obtained, different techniques which you have used for the interpretation of data, doing some experiment. Or if at all you are from, because if you are from social sciences, you are not conducted any experiment, then this will not be a part of your research manuscript. Methods will be there, because whenever we'll be talking about method, it's not only the experimental method, it could be the theoretical methodology which you must have adopted for collection of data, the methodology you must have adopted for interpretation of data, the methodology, for example, your research is based on the survey. Okay, so like whenever you are going to do the survey, you will be framing questions, right? So there could be some reason for framing those kind of questions. There could be some methodology you must have adapted. So all these things need to be reflected very, very specifically in methods. And regarding like method also consisting of the study design, like as I mentioned earlier, like whenever you are talking about the survey, so there like you will be you need to mention which location you have used, what dates you chosen, like what were the reputations, uh, uh, eligibility, like whatever participant you have chosen, what was the eligibility criteria of those uh, participants, participation rate, what was the participation rate of those. So all those things need to be mentioned very carefully. And if you have published a similar kind of paper earlier, don't do copy paste from your earlier publication, because most of the time, whenever research scholars are having similar data published earlier, they are going to get tempted to use the similar same methods in the next subsequent publication. And that will be a kind of plagiarism issue if you are doing that. uh, Even rephrasing, I will not advise you to do the rephrasing too. Rather, I will advise you to write the methods and write method section independently altogether, without taking any help of your earlier published articles. Obviously, you should mention about data sources, the what kind of laboratories you are used for collection of data, and at all limitations also, about limitations, like whatever uh, the data you have collected, not only the theoretical data, even experimental data. Like you should mention what kind of limitation you have, and study size. Like if you are collecting some data from different stakeholders, in that case, What could be a study size? Study size means whether it was related to only one particular city or one state or entire country or something of that sort, right? So study size should be mentioned. So this is a sort of examples you can see here. Here study size has been mentioned, recruitment rate has been mentioned, right? These are some of the data collection, what kind of data collection have used, then similarly the location information. So these are some of the information that will help you understand how to write the method section. Regarding statistical methods, like sometimes what happens, like whatever statistical method you have used, you should describe all those methods. Sometimes like you might be proposing altogether new statistical method for interpretation of data. So if at all it is new, obviously you need to explain each and every aspect. And if it has been earlier used, then you can mention some reference in the result and discussion or in the method section, and that reference can be quoted in the references list of references. So there you need not mention everything, but I would suggest, even if it is like earlier use statistical method, I would suggest you to write in detail about that. And if at all it is new, obviously you need to write all the details about that. And this is a kind of example. You can see assessment variable, adjustment of variables, and this is the statistical models which was used in this particular publication. When it comes to the result, like whatever findings you have, those findings can be presented in your manuscript in terms of results. So it could be in terms of tables, it could be in terms of figures, it could be in terms of course, whenever we are talking about figures, there are different kinds of figure. Let me give you the glimpse of those. But most importantly, whenever you will be putting results, you need to compare your present results with the prior publication. The reason for that is, as I mentioned earlier, you will be making a very gentle, like light claim in your, like I would say, a formal claim in informal claim in your abstract section. However, in introduction, you will be making very comprehensively, very clearly what kind of, like claim could be in terms of novelty, claim could be in terms of societal relevance, claim could be in terms of your earlier publications. Because as I mentioned, all these three components are going to be look into in your introduction section. So these are the claims you will be making. Now those claims need to be substantiated whenever you will be putting your results. So whenever you will be comparing your result, you need to always compare your present result with earlier published result and make a statement, make a very sound statement that whatever result you got are better than earlier one. And whenever you are talking better than earlier one, you can quote the reference so that reviewer can compare like whatever your data you got and whatever data which were published, whether your claim is really valid. So if you are putting like this in your result, obviously everything would be clear cut, and results, I mean, the reviewer would be convinced, and you won't be having any problem as such. Now, as far as the line graph and figures are concerned, as I told you earlier, figure could be a different kind of figures. Like number one option would be line graph. Sometimes line graphs are especially effective for showing trends. Whenever you will be showing trends, how the data changes over the time, or relationship, how the two variables varied, right? Relationship between two variables. So for that purpose, line graph could be better. So you have to decide, once you have the data, what should be the presentation mode of the data, whether it should be in the form of line graph, or whether it should be in the form of histogram, or it could be in the form of tables. So it all depends, like there are certain advantages as well as disadvantages. These are certain advantages of line graph. Now, whenever we are talking about figure should have very clear-cut information. Clarity of information should be there. Like you can see, this is the anatomy of figure. Like x-axis label, y-axis label, y-axis tick marks, whatever major and minor ticks you have, whatever legends, symbols you have used, all those should be very, very clear, and clarity should be very, very good. You can see this is, I mean, the explain anatomy of figure, and this is actual example. You can see all major and minor tick marks, x-axis, y-axis labels, all symbols are clearly being reflected in the figure. This is another example of same thing. Again, like many examples, like these are, you can see everything is very clear. More examples. Now, when it's come to the examples, tables, sometimes tables are useful when you need to present a quantity of numerical data. So because whenever you want to refer an absolute number, right, then the trade line will not be, line graph will not be basically a good option. Absolute number, whenever you want to compare absolute number, table would be a better option. So that is why I said you have to decide what should be a mode of presentation of your data, which should be better way, in what way you will be able to convince. The another option could be a histogram or bar chart. Now, bar chart or histograms are good when you want to compare discrete atom, because bar can be either vertical or horizontal, and making different colors, you will be able to specifically differentiate the different objects. You can see here different objects have been labeled, and it is very easy to differentiate all those objects. And these are some of the images, like these are, I mean, if you are from science discipline, you will be able to understand. But if you are not from science discipline, you will not be able to understand. Then comes to the discussion. Discussion is like a good story. Whenever you want to, like, if you are a storyteller, because you see, everybody cannot be a very good storyteller. There are few people, like जैसे कि हमारे जो दादा परदादा होते हैं, जो senior members in the home, they are always a very good storyteller, right? And हम बहुत बार हमारे दादा नानी दादा दादी नाना नानी से हम बहुत बार कहानियां सुनना बड़े पसंद करते हैं. The reason for that is they are having a kind of experience to explain the entire story. So whenever we are talking about the story, it has always beginning, middle, and end. Because if you don't, because for creating story, you have to create an environment, right? Your mahol ko create karna padega. So it has always beginning, in which you will be stating answers and summarizing the main point. Because in the beginning, you will be stating, because whatever questions you must have raised in the beginning of your introduction, those questions you will be answering in the discussion session. So you will be stating those answers and summarizing your main finding. In the middle part of your story, you will be explaining in detail, because in the beginning you will be stating a general stating of the answers and summarizing, whereas in the middle you will be explaining your answers in more detail, and you will be making sure that, or you will be convincing how those answers fits with the earlier published work. That is very, very important, because explanation of answer is not only the solution. You need to make sure that how these answers are relevant with respect to the prior publication. That is very, very important. And in the end, you need to give a conclusive, there should be a conclusion at the end. If you could not conclude, again, you can never be considered as a good storyteller. So it's like a kind of telling story. So you have to create a story, and then you should put it on your word, so that your result and discussion part would be more impactful. And like most importantly, what you need to do is this I have already mentioned. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to shine yourself, show your knowledge of prior literature, because you will be convincing the reviewer that whatever data I got, this data is somehow better than the earlier published data. So why it is better, you have to mention. What you got, you have to mention. Why it is better, you have to mention. And then you have to give the the evidences for that. And whenever you are interpreting, obviously the interpretation should be consistent. As I mentioned earlier, you will be making claims in introduction, and those claims are going to be substantiated in your discussion part. So whenever you will be interpreting your data, you need to make it sure that you are substantiating your claim. and very carefully you have to do it. And moreover, while doing this, you need to mention the significance of the outcome of this work as well as kind of future direction, which you will be mentioning in obviously in the later part, in the conclusion part, but you should do it here too. Moreover, limitation of the study should also be mentioned, because if you don't mention, obviously reviewer is going to be there to caught you, because reviewer are going to see what are the issues, what are the problems in your investigation or in your research. So instead of allowing him, don't give any opportunity to reviewer to identify the problems. You can go ahead and make a mention that okay, these are some of the limitations, and at the same time, whenever you will be putting your limitation, discussing your limitation, you should be able to give a kind of positive spin, like what, although you have some limitation, but those limitations could be addressed by making a slight modification in your methodology. That kind of positive spin should be given whenever you will be talking about limitation. And the last part would be conclusion. Not last, but next part would be conclusion. There are two standard way to conclude. Number one, restate answers in terms of numbers achieved, because this is very, very important. You have to restate your answers, whatever number you have achieved, and indicate the importance of work by stating implications. That is very, very important. And application for the future work. So first of all, you have to restate the prominent results in terms of numbers and give some sort of futuristic implications, like whatever data you have could be useful for some future application. This is kind of example. Here I have mentioned, I'm not going to read here, but here you can see the highlighted, the blue highlighted text. I have mentioned some figures, and then I have, at the end I have mentioned that this sensor will be useful for preparation of portable sensing gadgets, a kind of futuristic aspect, okay, that need to be given in the conclusion section. Now, regarding acknowledgement, a list of funding resources, whatever you have, that should be mentioned. Whatever the support you got, that should be mentioned in the acknowledgement. For maybe sometimes you may have some collaborator, he must have help you in interpretation of data or drafting of manuscript or editing manuscript. That can be mentioned if you are not giving him the authorship, because sometimes the people who are helping you, you can mention, you can give them authorship, co-authorship, and if you don't want to give them co-authorship, you can mention in the acknowledgement. So this is the example wherein, like, I have acknowledged all the funding resources which I got. Now, regarding references, references are very, very important. What is the why referencing is important? You can see referencing is important to support your own opinion and conclusion. It adds the credibility to the information you have presented, because whenever you are referring, giving some reference, it means that you are authenticating yourself. That is very, very important. It helps you to show your own credibility. Moreover, it enables reader to trace the source which you have utilized. That is also equally important, because if somehow reviewer had the feeling that you are hiding something, obviously you are going to be in trouble. And referencing will avoid you possible allegation of plagiarism as well. So therefore, referencing is very, very important. There are different products nowadays the people are using, like EndNote is one of those, because if you use EndNote software, this is a kind of software which can be used for in which you don't need to do anything, everything can be managed by the EndNote. So it's going to be very easy. Now, as far as the reference styling is concerned, there are different reference styling. Harvard reference style is one of those. Usually, the social science people use this Harvard reference sizing, humanities. Now, in which, as far as the reference list is concerned, you can see here the reference list always going to be there in the alphabetical order, right? So the author's name and the title of the paper, and then the other details, right? And whenever you are referring that in the text, you can see the name of the author followed by year and page number. This is how the referencing is being done by using in Harvard reference style. However, as far as Vancouver reference style is concerned, this is usually the in the science and technology faculty, Vancouver reference style is being used. Here we don't follow alphabetical order, but like the serial numbers are going to be followed. Like for example, you can see this in the text. We are going to put the numbers, number 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and whatever number we have mentioned, this serially the list, the publication details are going to be added in the list. It's not in alphabetical order. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some drafting tips. As far as the drafting tips are concerned, English language tips I'm talking about. You should always try to draft your manuscript by using passive voice by using active voice rather than passive voice. I can give you some examples how active voice is better. You can see these are some of the examples, like about some important aspect of active voice. Active voice emphasizes the performer. Active voice is always direct, very clear and concise. Reader knows who is responsible. Examples are: Smith et al. Investigated the relationship. We have analyzed the data. So this is the way of writing manuscript by using active voice. Now, as far as passive voice is concerned, passive voice in contrast always emphasizes the receiver's product of the action. Like passive word can be very awkward and wordy. Like for example, relationship was investigated by Smith et al. Data results have been analyzed by us. Now, see, these are very small sentences. It doesn't look very wordy. However, if you are having a big sentences, a big paragraph, passive voice will always create the complexity. Whereas if you are using active voice, it minimizes the complexity. You can see this is another example. The mouse consumed oxygen at higher rate. Oxygen was consumed by the mouse again. This is like, these are very small sentences, so it doesn't make आपको जो उतना significant difference नहीं दिखाई देगा. But whenever you will be having long statement and paragraph, passive voice always enhances the complexity, and active voice is always provide you a clarity of presentation. Now, as far as the tenses is concerned, using scientific writing, I'm going to give you a few tips regarding how to use the tenses, like in abstract. Now, since this is your unpublished work, because recently you have carried out this work, you are going to publish, right? This is not published at all. So here, but work has already been carried out. Not published, but work has already been carried out. Therefore, past tense should be used in the abstract. Like for example, in the present investigation, blah 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 was synthesized. So we have synthesized this. So was synthesized. So past tense is expected in the abstract. Now, as far as the introduction is concerned, now in introduction include background information, which is generally accepted as a past, and therefore it should be presented in present tense. Like for example, BOC creates serious threats to the human being. Genomics provides crucial information for rational drug design, right? And whenever we are talking about reporting results, right? Reporting result, then the perfect tense, present perfect tense should be used. Like a great deal of work has been conducted. So this is present perfect tense. Okay. So it means in introduction, you have to use the present tense or the present perfect tense whenever you will be reporting results. These are again example, like heavy metal ions are one of the serious issues concerned as they are a major water pollutant. These are the realities I am presenting. Whereas these are the results I am reporting. Few nanoparticles and SWNTs incorporated in this and this structure has been referred. Okay, it means like I'm reporting my research, right? Now, regarding methods, past tense to describe what was done. Okay, And in your method section, it is customary to use simple past tense to describe what you did in your study. Like example, this and this were procured from Sigma artery. So were procured. So past tense should be used as far as the method is concerned. Now, when it comes to the results, past tense for results often, because here you will be discussing your results, like whatever results you obtain, you will be discussing those results, and moreover you will be comparing those results with some present facts. Okay, for that purpose present tense can be used, or you will be referring figures which you have already got, and you will be explaining those figures that can be explained in present tense. Now, example here. Additionally, from figure, it can also be observed that, right? So it is like past tense. And this is, since it is reporting result, this is shown in figure 8A and B. So I am reporting my result. So here present tense is going to be used. Regarding discussion, present tense to explain the significance of result and past tense to summarize the finding. So there are two different tense can be used. So like this is one example of present tense, like SWT does not show any extra peak. So this is I'm explaining significance of my result, and this is I'm summarizing the findings, whereas other peak was observed. So I'm summarizing my findings. So it has, in the discussion part, it has present tense as well as tense. Conclusion will be combination of tenses. Conclusion will be having combination of tenses. Like you will have to highlight the past research and you will have to give some future direction. मतलब जो research आपका हुआ है, जो data आपको मिला है, that need to be highlighted, and futuristic direction आपको देना है, right? So for that purpose you can see, although study found evidence, so this is past tense. Okay, then further studies are necessary. Okay, and this is kind of present tense. Now, as far as the citations are concerned, how to drop the sentences for citations. You can see present tense is used when the information you are citing is generally accepted as a significant scientific fact, right? For example, you can see the statement: nutrition resorption is a common phenomenon. This is a scientific fact that we are presenting. So it is like we have to use present tense. Or factor that control the concentration of aluminum seawater are poorly known. So we are presenting the current fact. So therefore, the present tense should be used. Now, whenever we can use the past tense, we can use past tense. Past tense is used to use if the author prominent citations are, if you are reporting, like for example, Sarkar et al, or you can use, like there are different things. You can, like Sarkar et al found or showed, reported or noted or observed that teachers allocated equal time. It means whenever you are referring author prominent citations, then past tense need to be used. So this is all about the drafting tips as far as the scientific content is concerned, and I have given you a glimpse of the tips for using some grammatical like tenses and all those things. Now, what are the general rules? Like whenever we are talking about the drafting, so you are bound to commit mistakes, right? So what we need to do is we need to do is a very rigorous spell check. Try to avoid typos, because let me tell you, if whenever your paper goes to reviewer, and if there are redundant more number of typos, then like the reviewer is going to be frustrated and your paper is going to be rejected. So you have to be very careful about that. Use correct and standard nomenclature. Whenever you are talking about nomenclature, if it is known, if it is not known, if it is not standard, define it. Okay. Otherwise don't use. That is why the abbreviations need to be defined. there should be consistency. I talked about consistency. And as far as the page number is concerned, you should not forget numbering your pages, because sometimes you forgot to number your pages, but don't do that. Otherwise, you will be inviting troubles. Okay. Now, after submission, what you will be doing? Most of the journals, uh, like whenever you will be submitting paper, the editors is going to make an initial decision. As I mentioned earlier, it will decide whether the paper is to be rejected or sent back, or whether it is to be forwarded for review. There are two different kinds of reviewing: blind and non-reviewing. Non-reviewing means the journal will be asking you to submit list of reviewers, and blind means they will be sending your paper to the reviewer, which you may not be knowing to them, right? So that is what it is being followed. Most of the journal, they are having sending your paper to three or more than three reviewers. Referring speed, it tremendously varies in journal to journal. You have to see, like, you have to look into the publication speed, how fast they are, and depending on, you need to see the prior published paper and see how fast the journal is, and accordingly you should choose. Accordingly, you can have the three journal decision: accept, or accept with revision. Minor or revision could be minor or major, or it could be rejected. If your if a paper is rejected, you are expected to think, I mean, work on that, revise the paper, and send it to either same journal or to other journal. So this is how the overall review process is all about. You will be submitting paper. You are going to get the confirmation. Initial decision is going to be done by editor. Either paper will be, I will not say rejection, paper will be sending back to author, or it will allow paper to go review process. Reviewers are going to be assigned, reviewers will be accepted. Once the review is completed, you are going to get revision, either straightway acceptance of paper, or straightway rejection of paper, or the paper is going to be, will be advised to revise the paper. So whenever you will be advising for revising paper, work on that, revise it carefully, send again for the reviewer, and again the same process is going to be repeated. Once it is accepted, it is going to be obviously sent to the publisher. So depending on, I mean, editors and reviewers are looking into original and innovative research that will add to the field of studies as a key factors. So whenever you are talking about research paper, they are going to see whether what kind of innovative data you have, what kind of impact of data you have, and therefore you can decide. If you are having very long study, you can make a comprehensive document and send it to one journal, or you can break it and send it to different papers can be sent to different journal. It depends on the kind of research you got, and this is how the general article activities to be followed whenever you will be submitting research article. So read instructions for the author carefully, format your manuscript in line with the journal style, send manuscript to the journal, wait for acknowledgement, and if it is acknowledged, wait for reviewer comments. If you got the comment, address all the comments. Keep the deadline submission of revised manuscript very seriously. Return the manuscript to the editor with point by point response. That is very important, because whatever comments you have, respond to each and every comment. Even if you, for example, there is negative comment and you are not happy, you don't want to, you can justify that your data is like, they may say that, okay, this data is wrong, this data is wrong, you need to do this, and blah blah blah. So what you can do is, you can reject their suggestion as well. You can mention that, no, I think that I should not carry additional investigation or additional expert, because reviewer may ask you to do additional experiment or do some additional analysis, collect some additional data, and you can reject that as well with giving proper justification. And again, send it to the journal editor with your responses and correction in your manuscript. Wait for the decision. If it is accepted, then after some time you are going to get the proofread. proofs of your article, do serious checking of that, return your proof, then you are going to get the copyright form, sign the copyright form, and once it is copyright form is signed, once the proof are sent back, your article is going to be print through offline or online mode. And if your paper is rejected, then work on it seriously, send it to another journal. And the final advice would be, whenever we are talking about the corrections, whenever we are talking about the impact writing, you need to keep on writing again. Sometimes, like, you have drafted abstract one times, twice, thrice, four times. Do it, repeat it again and again. So that is why rewrite, proofread, because you have to write the content, proofread it, make the correction, again rewrite it. So this is how the errors could be minimized. And most importantly, check all your numbers for accuracy and consistency. Sometimes it happens that you are claiming one number in abstract, different number in introduction, third number in your result and discussion, and altogether different in your conclusion. So that you are allowing your reviewer to get the enhanced frustration level. So don't do that. You have to be very careful. And most importantly, once you write the manuscript, hand over it to the person who is not known to your research. Ask him to do a very critical review of your article. Allow him all sort of freedom to make the corrections. And after accepting that, revise those corrections. And I'm sure if you are following this method, and if you are very honest, committed, and focused, obviously these efforts are required for drafting your manuscript. And if you could draft your manuscript thoughtfully, I'm sure your document is going to be excellent, impactful, and which will have novelty, societal relevance, and you will be able to create impact. And I'm sure that you will be able to convince the reviewer, and your paper would be accepted. With this, I'm going to stop here now, and let me see whether you are having any questions now. If you can unmute yourself, you can raise the question.
Participants unmute themselves. I will permit to unmute yourself. Yes, Vilas sir. Unmute themselves. Vilas sir.
Hello.
Yes. Any questions?
सर नमस्कार सर, मी विपर सर बोलतोय.
हाँ, बोला कोण बोलताय?
डॉक्टर विलास पर खूप छान रिसर्च मेथोडॉलॉजी वगैरे सगळं ऐकलं, जेवढं जमलं तेवढं.
हाँ, बोला सर.
छान. You have delivered very nice lecture to us, particularly how to prepare the paper and so on. So we are so very satisfied from your knowledge which is delivered in front of us.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. बाकी कोणाला काही प्रश्न नाही आहेत? ठीक आहे, काही प्रश्न असतील तर कन्क्लूड करा मग.
पार्टिसिपंट काही क्वेश्चन असेल तर विचारू शकता स्वतः अनम्यूट करून. नो एनी क्वेश्चन? एनीवन क्वेश्चन? ओके.
ठीक आहे, मग मी साइन आउट करू?
हो सर, धन्यवाद सर. आपण वेळेवर
थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.
हाय
अरे vote of thanks.
हाँ Hipper sir, propose the vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. Good evening, one and all. In behalf of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, in behalf of the SRDC, and in behalf of all the participants who are attending this class on NEP. So thanks, Professor Dr. Mahendra Shirsat sir, who is the Dean of Science and Technology in this university, and our good friend, and he is always providing very nicely, not only related to research, but also he is providing all types of support to the guidelines, particularly those who want to visit to foreign, go to foreign for the purpose to extension activities and learning more things, so we can provide the guideline. So this is my appeal for all the participants. Again, in behalf of all the participants.
So thank you very much, Hipper sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.